This not just girl talk.
It's talk for the people.
You got two women,
Two voices,
one sound.
and that's the truth.
You here with the Married DHON,
And the selective Dawn.
and we here to call a spade a motherfucking spade. You ready?
I'm ready.
Let's get to it.
Okay.
This not just girl talk.
It's talk for
You here with the Married DHON,
and the selective Dawn.
and we here.
So I do several different things. I got my hands
Mm-hmm.
in management, hosting, working on my first book project. So I got my hands and my irons in a lot of fires. I should say a lot of irons in the fire.
Okay. So the last time you were here with Latoya and I, and shout out to Toya.
Where
Tricky
Toya
T. Well, you know it's her birthday week, so you know she living it up.
living it up somewhere in the world, huh?
Yeah, living up that good old.
Oh, you know what? I
vibe.
saw her on I saw her and Frankie on Facebook. Yeah, I know where they at. They in the islands having fun.
Having a grand old
Yeah,
time.
yeah. That's what's up. That's what's up.
Meanwhile, we back here.
Back to deal with the real things that we need to discuss, man. That's why I'm here.
It's true. It's true. So again, last time you came, we talked about marriage and the importance of monogamy or knowing your partner, knowing what you get into.
Right.
Is it you appeared the first time as a group, and now you're here as an individual?
Absolutely. Ain't that something, ain't it?
Ain't it something?
Man, everything changes with the day, man.
It does.
Everything changes with the day.
Okay, so again, I know you told us, you working on, your book, your music.
Right.
But that's kind of vague. Some might not know who Cool Hunter is.
Right. So let me start with where things are musically, right? Because I've been working. I kind of got into artist management around the time I got into podcasting.
Okay.
So it was a real new field for me because it's something I've never done before. But I've worked in management for a profession.
Okay.
So from my years dibbling, dabbling in music and aspiring as an artist, I've made a lot of connections with producers, engineers, artists over the years. And you maintain, relationships just naturally, being good people, right? So good friend of mine that I met through, I met him because his manager at the time when I met him was one of my best friends.
Okay.
And then their relationship evolved. He kind of, they kind of parted ways. And then a couple of years ago, when I when I first got into podcasting, me and him went into the studio, and I had some beats from my producer. Shout out to Neck Music, C's, my guy C's. So I had some beats, played him some beats, and I was like, you know what? Where I was at as a person, I wasn't a rapper no more. You know what I'm saying? I never really rapped. I never really got off of square one. So it's like, you know what? I knew where he was from a passion standpoint. I was like, man, let me give you these, man. Take these, start working on these, and that's how the flow started. So
you gave him your beats.
Right.
Free of charge.
Right. Absolutely.
Is that typically how it works?
No, I mean, it depends based on different relationships. But
Okay.
for me, it was tracks I had that I wasn't really doing nothing with. I knew he could do something with them. They were good beats. And I think ultimately, those songs didn't necessarily come out, or those tracks didn't, but it turned into what we've been working on for almost 2 years now.
Okay.
So we had a process now where his first project's about to come out at the beginning of next year. So we prepping a lot of visual content and just really kind of finalizing his first project so we can push that out there and really get him going. You know what I'm saying? And that'll be our first time really working together, and for me really getting behind somebody and investing in them and kind of getting into this hat of being an artist manager, talent development from a hip hop and R&B perspective. So it's been a beautiful process. So I've been focusing on that. And of course, I've been working on a book project in my mind for years. And it's time to really, really put the pen to the paper and just really start writing it and jump into it. And from there, I have some plans in 2020. So we'll get into those plans after I'm actually done writing the book.
So what I took from that was you are really investing in yourself now.
Well, I always have been. Always have been.
Okay.
Whether I've worked on group projects or not, or worked on a group podcast or not, everything has always been simultaneous. So for me, it's not like one thing has kind of been more of a priority than the other, more than just trying to accomplish everything all together.
Okay.
And podcasting is a beautiful platform for you to push whatever you're doing from any business standpoint, any talent standpoint.
What would you say your greatest accomplishment has been in podcasting, just as a whole?
I think really preparing me for what's next to come.
Okay.
I think really getting acclimated to it, getting familiar, getting comfortable, kind of finding yourself in a sense within podcasting, because you have to figure out who you are if you're not going to be yourself. So for me, I'm just being myself. So it's nothing hard for me to do. I'm just being me.
Okay. All right, cool, Hunter.
Yeah.
I gotta get used to calling you that because I don't call you that.
Well, I mean,
You know.
everybody. But my name is James. My last name's Hunter. Everybody calls me Hunter. So it's cool, Hunter. I'm a cool guy. It's real simple.
Okay. So don't call you James on the show.
No, call me Hunter. That's what it says right there, right?
You're right. You're right. Call you Hunter. Okay. So
Let's go.
I got a little recap for the week. My week was pretty cool. You
Okay,
watch the show. So
okay.
Toya and I do a weekly recap. Again, shout out to Toya, the big 3-5.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, the big 3-5.
Uh-oh.
Yeah,
Let me
you know,
find out
that's
on
when your bones start to crack a little bit.
Hey, you heard what Dave
Little
Chappelle
tired.
said on about 36 on that Netflix
No,
special?
what'd he say?
Oh, man.
What'd he say?
I ain't ruining the moment. Keep going.
Well, I'm not watching it, so
He said at 36, it's over.
what's over?
So you trash if you're a woman at 36. You didn't see the Dave?
No.
Oh, man.
So
I didn't say that shit. He said it.
Wait.
How did you miss that?
So is he saying that you're trash if you are single at 36, or
No, he's
you
saying
just washed?
period. Like once you hit 36 as a woman, you're done. That's what he's saying.
Damn, I might have been done before then.
I mean, I don't. Of course, it's not true, but
You don't know.
see, I didn't say that. She said that.
I'm speaking for myself.
Okay.
You know,
okay,
I know I got a
okay.
little work to do,
okay.
and I can be honest with that.
36 is a sensitive number, man. That's young, man.
Man, listen, it is what it is.
Pay Dave no mind, man.
I'm gonna pay
Shout
you a
out to
little bit of
Toya, man. 35 is young, man. It's very,
It
very young,
is
man.
35 years young.
Bones do start cracking, but you're still young.
Okay. Young with a little Tiger Balm, asthma cream assistance.
Yeah, it's real.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, Epsom salt, got to soak every now and then, but you
Hey,
know,
every day you got to hit them joints.
that's the beauty of growing older, man. The beauty of growing older.
You're so optimistic. I love that
Hey,
about you.
hey, I'm older than 35. That's what I'm saying. That's why I'm saying that.
Okay, all right.
Oh, man.
So we're just going to jump right into it.
Okay.
When you hear my black brother, where does that put you?
Man, it mentally puts me in a space of generally things that are positive
Okay,
or that should be positive.
I agree.
So, but the behaviors of that brother term, what is associated from a behavior standpoint from brotherhoods and that type of thing, on a day in and day out basis, we don't see it. It's not consistent with what standard or whatever idea we have of what brotherhood is amongst black men.
So how do we change the scope of what brotherhood should look like? Because we see a lot of relationships,
Right.
and even with us as women, you know, that's my sis,
Mm-hmm.
or that's my bro. Is it really? Because
Hell no.
a minor misunderstanding can really shift the gears of those relationships, and it's like I thought you were my one.
Right.
So how do we shape that? Like, how do we continue with these meaningful relationships between the black man?
Well, we really got to assess like what our codes are. You know what I'm saying? What our codes of conduct, our character, our moral compass, our standards.
Okay.
I think in this day and age, there is none, there aren't any, I should say.
Okay.
That we have, like a general consensus on. Hell nah. It ain't, like a lot of those terms, brother, sis, king, queen, all of that's overused. It's cliche. It's just, it's just small talk. It doesn't really have any real behavior behind it that says we treat each other like brothers and sisters and kings and queens. So how do we start to rebuild that? I mean, where did we go wrong? I think you start there, right? Assess the real problem.
So that actually takes me into my next question. What do you think the biggest misconception is about the black man?
The biggest one?
Or one of the biggest ones? Because there's plenty.
Right. I mean, everything. I think our essence is a misconception and misconstrued generally.
And by essence, what do you mean?
Just everything about us. You know what I'm
Okay.
saying? The way we walk, talk, the way we look, dress, everything. But that's because our narratives aren't controlled by us, too. When you see us in the media, who controls the media? Not black men. So if you can't control your narrative, you can't control your perception and how people see you.
Do we have the ability to change our narrative? Do we have some
Absolutely.
black men that are powerhouses that will give us that platform to change the scope of what we look like or what the black man looks like. Let me say that.
We do, but I mean, are we focused on the perception, like on a media scale, or on a day-to-day basis in your neighborhoods, communities, really seeing something being duplicated in, everyday life? I think it's two different things. I think we have images of strong black men and stuff like that, but I think that kind of shows how the images doesn't or aren't really connected to how we really interact. We out here killing each other. We're not protecting each other. We could say brother, but that's not what it is. And we could see that day in and day out in so many different ways. That's not what it is. So we got to kind of not fake the funk, first of all.
Okay.
And focus on the perception of how we look in other people's eyes. How are we really interacting? Are we really, really showing each other love, being supportive, helping each other out, communicating with each other properly and being respectful, and just simple things?
Absolutely not. We are not always doing that.
So that's easy to see.
Okay.
So now the problem is, how do you put it back together, or where you start? Because we in our mid-30s, right? You know what I'm saying? Since Toya's 35, we'll just say we're in our mid-30s.
Oh, we can finally say it now because all of us are in our mid-30s. So she has to get on board with this one.
Well, I mean, but think about it, right? We have young black men well, just for me, for example, I'm at an age, I'm 36. I know it's young black men that look up to me. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So I understand how my perception is important, even if it's not in the limelight or on social media, podcasting, whatever it may be in the media. You never know who's watching. And that's what it really trickles down to, is day in and day out, who are you consistently? Are you somebody that's respectable? You know what I'm saying? Like, does your reputation precede you in certain senses? We don't have like that type of thought process with how we move out here. Everybody's kind of after what they after, doing whatever they have to do to get what they want. I mean, that's part of the problem. People will do anything to kind of be wherever they want to be these days. We all over the place.
And that's so unfortunate.
Very.
That's so unfortunate.
Very. It's hard to have better interaction amongst black men when everybody has individualized focuses. You know what I'm saying? So we don't have any collective focus. I don't think there's a focus of certain consistencies and things black men should be doing amongst, not just treating each other, but in our communities. So think about it, right? Who protects the black community right now?
No one.
So it's black.
It should be us, but it's not.
Right. And I've said this before, like the LGBTQ confuses things, or can in that sense, right? So if you're a black man and you identify with any behavior in the LGBTQ, does that change your stance and responsibility for protecting the black community?
It does not, but that community is a community all its own. And and they don't. Right. And this is no offense to anyone in that community, but they don't always want to stand with others. They want to stand with just their community and be that.
Right.
So they feel like their role and their responsibility is to that community rather than the community as a whole. Mm-hmm. So you lose out on someone who could be a change agent.
Right. So think about that. When you're talking about trying to galvanize, when you're talking about the term brother and brotherhood, you have to assess first who qualifies. Before we get to what we can do and how we interact, who are we talking about here? Is it a man that looks like me? Is it a man that looks like me that identifies with a certain lifestyle? Like, what is it?
I don't think the lifestyle or the sexuality should matter. Like, if you are just a stand-up individual, then that's who and what you represent. I personally don't care about the other stuff. All
right, should be. But I don't think when you have what's going on, like, we see the sex trafficking is actually a huge thing now. It should have been, because there's nothing new. But now we're seeing all of these instances of kidnappings and kids going missing and women going missing. Who's supposed to protect them? If being a part of the LGBTQ can be a valid reason why a black man doesn't have that responsibility, now you open the Pandora's box for a whole bunch of reasons and justifications for all types of shit. So if how you gonna hold me accountable to protecting the black community because I'm heterosexual? Mm-hmm. But if you're not, you don't have to. So it's certain interactions like that cause a problem. You know what I'm saying?
All right. So I was talking about this topic earlier today with a couple friends, and one posed a very good question. When did relationships between black men and women turn into projects?
Projects in
terms of I meet you, you're broken, I can fix you though.
Now that's interesting because.
Or
Okay.
you meet me.
Okay.
I'm broken. I'm
Right.
damaged.
Right.
I'm 4 or 5 kids in, several different fathers. I'm living on the system. I'm broken. But you come to me and say, I can change her.
Well, I think, see, here's the thing, right? As you get older, right, in interaction, men and women, it's hard to come across somebody that you don't have to help heal from life.
Okay.
In what regard, to what extent, how much, it will vary. But you're not going to get somebody unscathed, especially once you get past 20, 25. The older you get, the more experience you have. People are going through things and living through life, right? So it's hard to say when we became projects because we probably were born into it. Like, it was probably the same thing with the past few generations for different reasons. The interaction between a black man and woman has always been under attack. So the problems we facing now aren't new. It's kind of just newer versions of trickled down, recycled toxic behaviors. So I think everybody's in a project to an extent. To think you don't need some type of work depends.
I don't think that the person was phrasing it as they not needing work. It's a matter of how much work do you want to put in. And then let's say that relationship dissolves.
Right.
I've now made you better, or you've made me better for someone else.
Okay.
And it's hard to look at your work.
Okay.
It's hard to look at something you put together, be with someone else.
Ooh, and that's claiming a whole person. I mean,
Well, we've been guilty of doing that.
This is true. This is true.
We've all heard the term, I made that bitch, or I made that nigga.
And I hear that. So you said, like, people talking like they past mommy and daddy status, like past giving birth.
I mean, you got some people
like you made somebody who they are for real?
I mean, you have some people who weren't even reared by their parents, and that's a whole different subject.
That's true. And I'm not saying that it's not valid that somebody couldn't make somebody the better version of themselves. But that's always the risk. Like, how are you gonna build and be successful in a relationship when you're scared of making somebody better for somebody else?
I don't know.
I feel like if a woman's with me, she's gonna be a better woman, period. So it doesn't matter.
I can attest to that.
So I'm not about to be like, well, I'm gonna ration out how much I help you become better, because if you leave after 2 years, then I know you, especially like, just think about sexually. That's what dudes insecure. I done taught this woman how to do this and to do that. And
well, you can say what the this and that is. This is an uncensored network, so you can say it.
Okay. Let me think of some things, man. Well, we talk about head, right? Everybody likes head a different way. It might be a little bit of a grip here, a twist there, tickle there. Who knows, right? Let's say you get somebody to start giving you head the way you love it.
Okay, so someone who is sexually satisfying you
beyond
words.
Oh, man, and you've helped them get to that point. It wasn't always that way.
Okay.
You've had some struggles. You've had some challenges, but then you fought through it. You get them all the way there. And they cheat on your ass with somebody else, man. Motherfucker, you dirty. I mean, but it can happen. You can do it. Anybody can do it. So I think that's part of what our connectivity issues is mindset problems.
Okay.
Can't be negative.
Okay.
Can't be negative. That's an interesting topic, though. What do you really think? Like, are people projects? Is someone kind of at where they're at and can't change or progress or grow or evolve?
I think people are always changing. They're always evolving. But I also know that people can be projects, because if you look at the scope of your life, each thing that you've ever experienced is a puzzle or a piece to you. And it's either put you together or it's broken you apart. It's either left you full or it's left you insufficient.
Okay.
But either way, you got a lesson from it. So you either had to go back to the drawing board, or it was beneficial for you. You moved on. I mean, I'm okay with the project per se theory.
I don't think a lot of people are going to,
because I can personally say
cool
I have
with
not
that.
always been my best self. You might ask an ex of mine from a few years ago, and I guarantee you he gonna say that bitch ain't shit.
Right.
But that's his perception.
Right. Exactly.
And I could say the same thing about him. And then you have someone who has seen me at my lowest and had no problem picking me back up.
See, everybody's not capable, though. See, I think part of the problem is no different than whether it's brother to brother or black man to black man or black man to woman. When we've gone through so much, everybody need a little bit of help. So I think part of the problem is everybody isn't able to or isn't equipped to help people that they may want to help in the ways that those people need help. That could be frustrating.
I think also people don't know that their help is maybe more detrimental than beneficial.
You got to assess that.
You know, you
gotta
have to really
assess
take
that.
into account who and what you're listening to.
And who you helping.
Because some people will latch on to you
Right.
and suck you dry,
Right.
take all your energy,
And then roll
and
out.
deplete you. You know, we know.
So and that's the funny thing. If you have people that are like that, how are you going to be? How are you going to build when you're in a day and age and a climate and a time where people are so individualized in thought? Like they said, like I've heard people put a spin on the Me Too movement and kind of saying it's literally a Me Too movement. Everything is about me. Not, we know what the context of what the Me Too movement has started about, but we're in an era where everything is so subjective, where it's like everybody's individual problem is kind of blown up into a way bigger than what it really is. When you have a day and age like that, how are you going to work together? How are you going to put differences aside to work together to be better as black men, to protect the black community or to rebuild the black community? Because it needs to be built, first of all. That's part of the reason why we have the problems we have. How are you going to put what you went through in the past as a woman, what I went through in my past as a man, in the past, at least the negative parts in the past, so where you can come together and build moving forward? You got to sacrifice some things. It's going to take some work. Everybody's not ready.
Okay.
Everybody's not ready.
When you talk about fragile masculinity, what does
Oh,
that
man,
look
that's
like?
a hell of a term. Masculinity is fragile.
But what does that look like? Like you interact with the public on a daily basis, right?
Right.
I'm pretty sure you've come across individuals who have displayed such. So what does that look like for you? And then how do you handle that?
You know, like, you talking about fragile masculinity, right? I mean, it surfaces in a lot of ways. You kind of see it with domestic violence. You see it with, the lack of, like, a lot of the problems we have. We keep seeing kids, like, we have a bad problem with protecting kids right now. When you keep seeing news clippings where men are killing kids and shit like that, killing their girlfriends' kids that ain't theirs, like, how you lose it because of baby crying or because you babysitting? Like, just those are just small examples. Like, there's so many different ways that masculinity is fragile. We see it with, like, the misogynistic ways and viewpoints of relationships and interactions with women and things women can't do that men can do, and double standards and stuff. I mean, a bunch of shit is out of whack, and it's really based on how everybody was taught. Like, a lot of the twisted ways we have about masculinity is because the basis of it was taught to where men were greater than women, essentially. So when you teach that down indirectly and directly, I've said this recently, like, teaching somebody something isn't always direct. It's in your behavior because people watching you.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So you can teach somebody how to be a toxic man by not being at home and taking care of your household. Just not being there. Just like the thought process of I can pay bills but be absent.
'Cause
I'm taking care of home.
But are you really though? Because we had a guest on here, and I want to say you and I talked about this show, Lamont Carey, and he talked about he learned at an early age, man up. We learned that, oh, you a big boy. But what does that mean? Like, I'm a big boy. A big boy turns into a soft man.
And so
because
go
you haven't learned to express those feelings without being shamed. So where do we go from there?
That's one of the biggest keys or points of where masculinity is toxic, is emotionally. Men have this hyper or over focused effort, kind of overcompensating in the masculine machismo, being strong department. But being strong as an individual isn't just in one area. It's just not physical. Are you strong in communication? Are you strong emotionally? Again, when you're dealing with an emotional creature like a woman, you can't be emotionally unintelligent and really have success with her. You're gonna have to evolve in those areas.
Or you're gonna attract a woman like you.
Right. You know what I'm saying? Or who knows what else is worse? You know what I'm saying? There's plenty of examples of what's worse out there. But if you want a productive, positive, functioning woman, she's going to be emotional and and nurturing in ways that you're naturally not. You're going to have to put some effort into understanding that to increase your interaction with it. It's just real simple shit.
Okay.
So, but men struggle with that because men struggle with communicating how they feel at the time.
But women, we do too. We
Yes,
will
in essence,
communicate
right. I got that.
in a form of lashing out.
Right.
You know, we quick to say, ain't nothing wrong with me.
Mm-hmm.
And really be lying.
Right, but that's something a little different than men not addressing their emotions altogether.
Okay.
Or just totally not acknowledging certain aspects of who you are emotionally, but certain, aspects you will. You know what I'm saying? And then blaming it on the fact that you're a man. Like you said, manning up and bossing up and doing all these cliche, trying to live up to these cliche terms. Again, it's kind of you're duplicating what you saw. You didn't see, like, again, we talk about James Evans. He wasn't an evolved emotional creature. He was a provider and a protector.
But that's like America's dad, though.
Right. And then even when like if you see a better, well, damn, using Bill Cosby might be a bad example right now. Huh?
You don't fuck with him. We don't use Bill on here.
Yeah, you're not America's dad no more, huh?
No.
But again, just,
So let's use like a Carl Winslow.
I was about to say,
Okay,
he was the
Carl
next one in
Winslow.
line. He was the next one in line, right? Like these images, do we really see the in-depth emotional guy? But he still be masculine. Him still being strong. Everything that's associated with a man being emotional is soft. It's almost feminine.
It's gay.
It's gay.
They consider it gay, excuse me. They
Right.
consider it gay.
Right.
Or you consider it a bitch-ass nigga.
Right. It's like you can't. You're so hard. Like you got to be hard with your kids. You can't even be emotional with your like. You can't even sit down and have tea time with your daughter. You can't even do your daughter's hair. How the fuck you don't know how to do your daughter's hair? You can't braid.
No.
So you gonna send her out into the world looking like what?
Or you gonna pay for it.
Okay. If you got the money, do that. If she want to sit down and dress you up and paint your nails, you can't do that because you ain't. Come on, man.
So is that a societal thing? Has society?
It's a trickle down effect. I think on the general scale, it's a societal issue. We know it's a black problem.
Okay. Now, I've known you for
Long time.
You know what? That's a good one. A long time, right?
Right.
So the men that we grew up with,
Mm-hmm.
and then you see the men who these young men have to look up to now. What would you say the biggest difference is, or the biggest breakdown is?
Some of it is just taking on the responsibility of mentoring, teaching, the next generation coming behind you. Okay. I think the men before us knew that they had to even if they were doing certain things that might have been wrong, and that they knew were wrong, they still might teach the lesson learned in it to prevent you from doing wrong.
Okay.
And I think, people from our generation, we from the cracker, we 80s babies, so we've seen the men taken away and the impact. I know I can see it clearly, the impact on the younger men as they've been raised, for a couple generations now without men in the home and being present. So I think that's where we go back to really rebuilding the brotherhood, is taking on the responsibility of checking a youngin' and taking what comes with it. You might say something to a youngin' and you might not know him, and he might, go from anywhere from wanting to fight to pulling out a weapon on you.
Right.
But how do you rebuild your community? How do you make an impact?
Well, that to me comes from just a lack of respect, like not identifying and being able to understand who your elders are.
Right.
But
that's true.
One of our viewers commented that Uncle Phil was emotional.
He was. Uncle Phil's a good one.
Now, would you say he would be a healthy balance in what a father/surrogate father looks like?
Mm-hmm.
Because you have some who will argue that he was kind of like a sellout. Like once he made it, he didn't want his kids in certain neighborhoods. He didn't want his kids a part of certain activities. I know there was one episode
right.
where...
That's a valid argument. Interesting statement.
Where Ashley wanted to do something, like she wanted to play the drums or something like that. And he was like, no, you're going to play the violin.
Right.
He took away what he deemed as urban or ghetto, right? And wanted to introduce her to something else.
Right.
So how would you wager with that?
Well, first of all, you got to be there as a father to even have that impact on your daughter.
So we're going to agree that he was there.
So you got to be there first.
Okay.
So it's layers to it. We got to get back into the household to have the impact. He was there so he can dictate the ways that he wanted his family to kind of grow and progress. If you don't agree with it, that's one thing. That's one argument. Got to be there, though.
Now, I heard you say you got to be in the household or you got to get back in the household.
Right.
What if you were never in the household because you were
Right.
a temporary person to a permanent decision, and the decision being a child?
Well,
Then what?
right, and I think, hold on, say that one more time. Whoa.
You are the permanent, right? But you made a permanent decision with
Okay.
a temporary individual.
Okay.
So you knew this wasn't going to go but so far. Now you're looking to this man to help raise and rear this child or be a part of this household that for real he never wanted to be a part of in the first place.
Right.
I'm just staying over.
Let's stay right here for a second, man. Because there's some layers to that. Like, where do you pick and choose when you can roll out? You're not picking and choosing that before you get the ass.
Maybe I am.
Maybe you are. But from the moment you lay down, you know that you can create a child. Especially if you go raw and you ain't pull out. That should instantly be like, okay, I potentially just created a child.
Okay.
So even if you all have a decision where we having casual sex, that doesn't take away the possibility and the responsibility that comes if she gets pregnant. And I think that's part of where we have a mindset issue. We got men that think that saying, well, I ain't want to be around, you knew that I didn't want to be around. You knew that I said I didn't want to have a baby. But you still had sex. So this is where it goes back to how you teach and how you, well, not necessarily just teaching, but just from a behavior standpoint, how behavior trumps universally. The universe don't care if you said you didn't want no kid. If you don't want no kid, don't have sex.
Well, don't have unprotected sex.
If you
be responsible,
right? So you get, even if you take preventive measures, you can still have a kid. It's one way you know for sure to not have a kid. So the moment you have sex, you got to throw that out the window. So you can't just be like, well, she knew I didn't want to have a kid. And just like on the woman's side, hey, think about that before you spread them legs. I know women get horny too, but that man can put his pants on and roll the fuck out. You can't.
Why can't I? Because I carried a baby?
I mean, you can't roll out without the baby.
But I can, though. I can have the baby and leave it. Not saying I would, but
I got you on that.
We know that there are cases of women who have been,
And
just emotionally and physically unavailable.
Overwhelmed.
They have been unavailable to raise a child.
That too. The situation is overwhelming. You gotta like, life doesn't spare people because they make mistakes.
Now my good friend G-Say said, nah, there are limits. There has to be. Thinking that love is enough is part of the problem.
As far as relationships are concerned, love, any emotion definitely isn't enough. It's work. Just flat out work. The type of work that is going to take relationship to relationship will vary. I think part of the problem too when it comes to our relationships is that we have these generalized, old, kind of rigid viewpoints of like, this is what you have to do to be successful in a relationship. So let's think about it, right? Have our parents taught us how to help someone mentally heal from trauma? To be there for emotional stability past the point of saying I love you. Like really being there for somebody despite what they've been through or what challenges they've been through. Because a lot of people have been traumatized. We know how the type of trauma women are going through. You think, are men equipped to help a woman heal from trauma? Like in a relationship? Hell no.
And why is that?
Because niggas wasn't taught. Your daddy didn't do it.
Did your mother do it? Because that's going to take me into my next question.
Now, we come from, our parents were a progressive generation. So we start to see certain things like therapy come into play, counseling come into play, marriage counseling, stuff like that. We still see how it's shunned though. So we have some ways where it's interesting, man. I don't think you can duplicate a lot of the stuff that we were taught. You have to use what's applicable, leave the rest behind, and learn new things on the fly that fit.
So at what point do you feel like you're ready to unlearn those poor coping mechanisms?
That's what somebody has to answer for themselves.
Okay. Can that be deemed from a relationship? Can that be deemed from just your life experiences? And how do you know? How do you really identify as a black man when you have poor coping skills? If no one has ever pointed that out to you, that was a heavy one?
Yeah, no. I mean, but like self-medicating is just a prime example of people having an issue with dealing with things. You know what I'm saying? That's one example. But it really goes to, like, I know for me, I know an area where I evolved as a man, and I feel like it's somewhere where I learned young from women, you know, from moms, aunts, just life experiences, communicating emotionally, really being able to express how you feel despite how vulnerable it will make you feel. It's healing in that. It's a lot of positivity that comes with really addressing the shit that you've gone through in life, facing it, dealing with it, and a lot of times speaking on it. And then you actually can move forward with clarity. You can learn lessons. See, just because you face with a problem or a challenge in life don't mean you learn a lesson. You got to really take something from it, and life going to test you to see if you apply it. So, it's a lot.
So would you say that there is healing and vulnerability?
Absolutely, 100%.
Okay.
I think that's the missing link when we're talking about rebuilding all these relationships, brother to brother, brother to sister, man to woman in relationships. Vulnerability is more important than love.
And then where does the accountability come into play? And when I say accountability, I don't mean us holding others. I mean us holding us accountable. Like, this is what I did. This is the part that I played in this, and this is where I need to change.
You have to be vulnerable with yourself.
So vulnerability would be the first step with being with yourself and whatever it is you're dealing with.
I think when you talk about being real and true and your best self and the best version of yourself, when you're talking about doing right by you, it starts with being vulnerable about everything about you. What you think, what you feel, what you're going through at the time. If you can't be vulnerable with yourself, then you're probably never going to be critical to the point where you really can help yourself grow. So you might be able to have good people around you if you're blessed enough to have them that can have an impact on you to help you see this and learn some of these things. But if you're not vulnerable enough to look yourself in the mirror and be like, you know what, I made this mistake, I need to change in this area, or I'm actually great in this area. Let me not beat myself up. Let me give myself a pat on the back. You could keep doing that. It's some other areas you might not know. You have to be able to really, truly address how you feel and be open to it and with it. A lot of people aren't, though.
Okay. So would you say men's support groups and therapy and things like that are beneficial?
Right, absolutely. Fellowshipping in any and all kinds of ways, whether it's watching football on Sunday, coaching athletics, you know what I'm saying? It could be stuff, within religious organizations, depending upon what your beliefs are. Really, that's one thing you see in with religious organizations, churches and stuff like that. You see Bible study groups and you see groups like that where that's just commonplace or normal. But in the hood, around the way, where do you see that at?
Typically
where
you
it's
don't.
positive. Now, if you could be fellowshipping on the corner, but if y'all hustling too, then it's not just fellowshipping from a positive standpoint.
It's not.
I'm not saying that's what our brothers are doing. So we need to really have places, where like that are kind of like, I can't think of the word right now, but it's kind of like places where even if for younger guys where they can go be around responsible older guys, like a place where it would almost be like more duplicate, like a better version of mentoring programs.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so instead of it being kind of on a smaller scale, we need places where they can really go. Like, it would be just as easy as like going to a rec center. You know what I'm saying? That's the type of stuff we need, like where people can connect, come together, despite whatever they're going through to really, really build. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. So that speaks to what one of our viewers just said. Daniela, hey.
Hey, what's up, love?
Oh, okay. She said that healing for the future will take teamwork. Now, with that teamwork, is there ever a time when you feel like, you know what, this just might be too much, and you want to throw the towel in?
I'm pretty sure people do feel that way. I think it's that, but that's not going to be something that you can say or I can say or anybody in their relationship can say that can apply to somebody else.
Okay.
See, that's part of what I think the bad part of what we were taught from old relationship ways is that it's one size fit all. It's like, this is what works.
Most certainly not.
That's not the case. It's different strokes for different folks. Different things make this person's cup of tea sweet compared to that person. You got to really be specific. But again, the more vulnerable you are, the more you can dig deep without filling away and letting your emotions get in the way of you growing more and learning more. Vulnerability is the key, man. You can't grow without being vulnerable.
So, fellas, y'all hear that? Be vulnerable.
Yeah.
And ladies, let's not shame these men for being vulnerable.
Right. We need support there.
Yeah.
But see, again, it goes back to what I was saying. Like, the same way, if you can't help somebody heal in a relationship, it's no different than if you can't teach. If you can't teach somebody how to love you, how to fuck you, how to interact with you, how to chill with you, talk to you, get to know you and all of that stuff, well, what do you think they're going to do? They can learn from their perspective, but you got to know you to guide somebody along to help them out.
Well, a lot of times people don't know themselves. They look for others to validate these false relationships
Okay,
and false
okay.
hopes. But that's another story for another day.
No, keep going.
I mean, that's just what it is. You know, we get into these superficial relationships, and we look to the partner or the mate to, you know, really validate and bring out those qualities in us. No.
How's somebody going to bring something out of you that they don't know is there?
Well, you don't even know it's there.
Because you don't know it's there. Because you haven't brought it out of you. Doesn't add up. Doesn't make sense. You can't hold people accountable for doing right by you and you ain't doing right by you. Come on, man.
True.
You got to love yourself first.
It's true.
But
Okay.
but I think that goes into like the brotherhood conversation too. You know, if you can't give me love from a stranger or just a random dude standpoint, if you conflicted and you got all types of issues within yourself,
Yeah, that
ain't
comes
gonna
from
happen.
watching who and what you take advice from. Now, this was another question that was posed to me earlier.
Okay.
What role does the black woman play in raising a black boy who becomes a black man?
That's a great question. I think it's pivotal. I think a man should learn about women from both perspectives, but I think a mother will teach a boy how to treat women,
Okay.
especially excuse me, a woman that's been in healthy relationships, is at a healthy space herself, can pour that into her kid.
Now, let's assume she has been in those healthy spaces.
Now you got some challenges because are you going to teach him to be who you wanted your man to be, or
Because
your
we love
baby
to
father?
idolize these men in rear in shape. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you
No,
off,
you
but that
good,
really
you good.
took me
I'm
to
agreeing
where,
with you. I'm agreeing with you because I know what you're saying.
It gives them reason or hope to shape their children into being what they weren't given.
Right.
And I think that's so unfair.
Right. It's no more or less unfair than on the flip side when you turn your boy into your man.
My young king.
Now he in a relationship with you. You know what I'm saying? So it's hard for a woman that hasn't seen a certain example of a man teach a boy to be that. Now, if you have the help of a stand-up dude, then of course you can always rely on that. You can actually rely on just teaching him the more, not teaching him how to be feminine, but how to handle femininity, how to interact with femininity, how to understand all of those things that women are going to do and say. You can focus on that part. You can teach him how to date, you know, things of that nature, because he's going to have that positive reinforcement from a father. That's why I say if we got to get back in the house. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say, you know, like on some willy-nilly shit, like it ain't sweet like that. Like everybody just not about to go live with their baby mother and live happily ever after again. But it's impacting the kids, so you got to make a decision. So it has to be a sacrifice for change somewhere.
Okay. Sacrifice for change.
Has to be.
Okay. So before we go to Ask the Don,
Okay.
what would be your closing remark for us as women to be better with our black men?
I'm gonna stay within the vulnerability zone.
Okay.
You know, being the stronger, generally of the two emotionally. I think we need women to kind of gain confidence in that space to help and teach and, you know, help their men develop in that space.
Okay.
I think we can say that women are stronger than men emotionally. So stop deferring to us in that regard. Take the wheel in that sense. You see your man might be struggling, communicating some certain things. Be patient. Don't talk down to the nigga or lose patience or, you know, kind of fly off the handle or presume all these things in your head. Stop living life with me in your head without me knowing. Communicate what you're thinking before you attach some emotion to it to where you feel away and you hold me responsible.
For something that you have
I don't even know. I didn't even know you
knowledge of.
felt that way. How is it my fault? So just being more responsible emotionally, so you can help that man in that regard. A lot of dudes don't know how to communicate things emotionally or understand their emotions. So who are we supposed to rely on there? If you can't rely on pops and grandpops, because you know how they rocking, they ain't touching that shit. You know what I'm saying?
And
Generally speaking.
Pops and grandpops look a little different now. You got grandpops that's 40-some years old.
So again,
So
we kind of
there's
stepping into some of them roles.
Yeah.
So we need help. You talking about we raising kids and we gonna be examples. If we're gonna be examples, right, for building a brotherhood and kind of bringing men back together, if it's gonna be emotional support there, where's it gonna come from? It's got to come from the women. Got to.
Well, ladies, y'all heard it first.
That's what I got to say.
From Cool Hunter, we need to be more more understanding.
There you go.
Let's be understanding. Let's be patient.
Yeah.
All right, so now it's time for a little mess.
Let's go.
So when you're dating someone,
Okay.
your type,
Okay.
has your type changed for you based on the experience you've had,
Mm-hmm.
or has it changed based on your age?
For me personally,
Mm-hmm.
my type has evolved based on experience from a standpoint of what I like and from an intangible standpoint mentally.
Okay.
From a physical standpoint, like if you were to look at 10 women I've dated, they will all look differently. You can't put a finger on my type from a physical standpoint. It's more
Okay.
about personality, character. I mean, where am I at?
So out of those 10, would you say that any of them have similar physical characteristics?
Yeah,
Okay. And you don't have to go into detail. I'm not asking.
I would say yeah.
But we were having a roundtable discussion earlier, and I was asked, what's your type? And I said, well, I like them clean cut, slim build. And I was asked, would I ever date a heavyset guy? And I said, well, I actually did date a large one, and I told this story last season. Now I think that I would date someone who's got a little size on him, because shit, I got some size on me.
Okay.
I'm a 200 plus.
Okay.
So-
Okay.
211
Throwing numbers out there.
211 to be exact. Ain't nothing wrong with that.
See vulnerability. See,
There's
you understand what I'm
nothing wrong
talking
with
about? This is vulnerability. It's a prime example.
Look,
Continue to lead.
You got to be
Continue
something
to
to
lead.
do something, okay?
I like the ring of that.
You know?
I might put on 15 pounds just to be able to say that. You gotta be something to do. I like the ring of that. Okay.
That's it.
Right.
So I was just asked, based on my personal experience, and like I said, I dated a larger guy, but I was much smaller too.
Okay.
And with dating him, it showed me kind of how shallow I was at that time. Because I was so turned off by something he did. I was like, no. His breast bigger than mine. His stomach bigger than mine. His ass fatter than mine. It's not going to work.
See, okay.
It's not going to work. So,
Right.
ladies, we can't really be mad because we pick men apart probably worse than they pick us apart.
Now
We do. If you sit around and listen to some of that girl talk.
men do the same thing though. Men do the same thing.
But I think we pick y'all apart a little worse.
Probably.
We do.
You might do it worse. Men have the conversation. Men have the look. Like we're so physical. Every woman that walks past, men look at. You know what I'm saying? So it's a little different. I think. Now I know for me, I like sexually liberal women. So I've always liked women that were receptive sexually to trying things and being open minded. You know what I'm saying? So that's part of my type.
Okay.
So if you see me with a little short, petite woman, she was a freak. If you see me with a big, tall, big girl, she was going too. You know what I'm saying? That's been a consistency there. I want to throw that out there. You know?
Okay. So has society ever changed, the type of woman you would date?
Now, I can say as I got older, I became more confident in my big girl fetish. Like when you're younger and it was a stigma with big girls in the 90s. You know what I'm saying? Like as far as when we grew up, you know what I'm saying? But I noticed as time has progressed, you know what I'm saying? Late teens, 20s, 30s, and my experiences, I'm like, man, I kind of like big girls. Like, I like big girls.
What's wrong with a big girl, though?
Nothing. But again, I think from a man's standpoint, it's rather shallow because you're taught and you're dictated certain things from a woman's standpoint. What's beautiful, what's not, what's attractive, what's not, the status quo, body type stuff
slim,
like that. So,
like with fair skin, long hair.
Right. Now, black men, we've always liked thickness. Our scale's been a little different anyway. Bulimia and anemia, that shit don't run with black people the same way it do white people. I hate to say it that way.
But it is what it is.
We don't have the white privilege to just be throwing up meals. We got to keep our shit down.
Believe that, because you might not know where the next one will come from.
Motherfucker ain't pressed to throw up oodles and noodles. You needed that.
You're not.
So we like thickness. We like, some ass, some titties, some thighs. I like skinny women, but with skinnier, more petite women, when you cuddling in the cold, you need more covers.
Listen, and we ain't trying to start no brush fires or no shit like that. You need some.
I didn't say that. I didn't say that. See, that was
it.
Right. That was all 211. Right? That was 211 behind that.
211 could say that because I used to be about 150.
Right.
There was no additional chin.
Okay.
You could see my collarbone. It was, look, I filled out.
Okay.
So
and there's nothing wrong with that.
I can stand on both sides of that statement.
Big girls winning in cuffing season is what I'm saying. You could just lay on a girl. She lay on you and you just,
listen.
Just thickness and soft. Yeah.
But someone asked you to describe what you mean by sexually liberal.
Just not rigid. You know what I'm saying? Sexual, like, sometimes, you kind of get to a space, especially when you first start having sex with a woman, you kind of get a list of all the shit that she ain't going to do. And then it's like, well, damn.
What, you want to lay on your back?
I mean, who wants a toy with limited moves? Like when you get a toy, you fuck around with it to see what it does, not what it doesn't do. I mean, maybe I could use a better analogy, but that's that deters men sexually. You know what I'm saying? We plan on being nasty anyway, generally speaking. Some dudes a little less, some dudes a little more. But,
Is that a cheap pass? Is that a cheap pass?
No, we ain't doing that. No, we gonna be stand up people.
So we gonna learn. We gonna teach.
Right.
We gonna use that as a teachable
gonna learn.
moment.
We gonna communicate.
Okay.
If you feel like you gonna want to go have sex with another person, communicate it. Just reciprocate simple shit. Do you want somebody getting drunk, sucking a dick behind your back, just randomly, don't know a motherfucker? Swallowing, getting their face all nutted in, skeeted in, then come home to you.
Now.
Come on, man.
No.
You fuck around, tear up the whole town. Just be reasonable.
Okay.
Just be reasonable.
Okay. I think you kind of touched on that the last time you were
try
here.
to be
being reasonable in your sexual requests.
Be reasonable, man. Just be fair. So that's sexually liberal. Can, of course, in this day and age, there's no rules to it. So,
Okay.
Again, it's more about being able to understand yourself, know who you are sexually. You know what I'm saying? Because that's a part of like when you talk about knowing yourself. If you don't know what you like sexually, how you going to build your sex life with a partner?
See, it's true.
See, that's what happens when you get you have challenges. You get in a relationship, and now you want to start having threesomes and start using these toys and having this shit and going to this swinger party. Now, like,
but there was at one time there was a lot of stigma about having these toys and having certain sexual preferences and fetishes.
It's
So
been so underground.
But that's it. So people weren't always comfortable. So they might have liked it. They just might not have known how to express to their partner that, I like this, because in fear of being shamed or shunned.
And now we seeing that, those stigmas are kind of fading away, so you can be a little more open, so you can kind of be free. You can kind of like what you like and kind of, articulate it. You just got to be able to do that.
Okay.
What else they want to know, man? What they talking about, man?
Well, I think you kind of struck a chord with the sexually liberal. So
how don't people know what's being sexually liberal is? Okay, do you swallow?
It's not, no. It's not. What?
If you a woman and you don't swallow, you're not sexually liberal.
Well, what if they spit?
It depends on how you take it.
What do you mean?
If soon as it hits your mouth, you clamp up and you stop, you ain't taking it like a champ.
Listen, she might not have been ready. She might have needed that second wind of breath. Sometimes it comes at you fast. It's
possible. I don't know nothing about that part. I'm not Tank. I can't identify with things I don't know nothing about.
We ain't said that.
Okay. I was just drawing a line in the sand.
We ain't said.
Don't trick bag me in this.
We didn't say that. What I'm saying is that sometimes life comes at you fast.
Right? And all pun intended, man.
All pun intended. And now, fellas, sometimes y'all don't give that warning. And
I know I haven't.
If your lady doesn't know, if your lady, or for us ladies, if your male doesn't know, like, those body tremors or those certain signals, he or she might not be ready for that. So you can't really fault them, me, you, whoever, for a little choke or a little spit. Saying,
I look at it like this, right? For the ladies, for y'all acting a little slow right now. So imagine if a dude was eating a box, going to town, eating it like Pastor was. You know what I'm saying? Was getting it in good.
Well, Pastor was kind of garbage. But...
I don't know. People identify with it being great. I'm just trying to give people something great. You know what I'm saying?
So if he was giving you the Pastor Wilson.
You know what I'm saying? If he was giving you the Pastor Wilson, right?
All right.
And then you about to come, and then he just stops. Like, I don't want you to come in my mouth. He ain't going to be all types of shit. He going to be talked about, name dragged in the mud, all of that. So just be fair and be reasonable. Why are you even asking about when it comes? When it comes, you just take it. Like the women that can really, really take it in the mouth and not swallow, but still keep going and, kind of like, okay, you're done, you're good. Then you go spit it out. That's the line. You have to be able to do that.
Okay. So you have to be able to catch and hold, at least. At
least. You got to be able to catch and hold at least. Because at some point within a month, a man's going to have to bust in your mouth. If y'all have a regular sexual relationship.
Okay.
Generally speaking, at some point you got to be willing to, he might need that. Just that type of release. Not every time. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you might just give him head to get it hard and he go in. Sometimes, you might not swallow. But sometimes you need to give him that sensation. You need to give him that. He's earned that.
Okay.
Especially a black man in America. Come on, man.
Okay. So a black man in America deserves to be swallowed.
Yes.
All right.
Yes, on a regular basis.
Okay.
Or on a reasonable basis. Excuse me. Whatever, reasonable, regular.
However you feel.
Y'all define that.
Okay. So enough of that mess. We see
Okay.
what your
The mess
type
is over. The mess is over.
Yeah. So T.I., this is the hall pass. So I'm asking you, are you giving T.I. a pass for this? He talked about, there was a big uproar about him going to his daughter's OBGYN appointments. Recently he was on the Jada Pickett, was it Red Table Talk show?
Red Table Talk.
And he talked about how his words were misconstrued. Do you think that's PR? Damage control? Because now his daughter doesn't follow him on any social media outlets. According to him and the daughter, they aren't speaking. Do you think he's now doing that to repair the relationship with him and her? Or did he take it too far in hopes of getting cool points as a father?
Well, see, I think he navigated the tricky waters of parenting where it's always supreme what a parent does in regards to their kid.
Does it always have to be publicized?
Who makes that decision first? It just in essence is a question. Does it impact and hurt him more or her more?
I think in this instance, it hurts her more.
So that might be the person that should have made the decision if that's discussed in a certain light. That's what I'm talking about, old school rigid ways.
Okay.
If you're going to talk about some shit in the public that impacts me, the fuck you get off on doing that for? How does that help your daughter? I think that's what the problem is. If you would have said anything about any of that process, she should be cool with whatever you say. The fact she ain't, the fact that she isn't, that's on you. You've dropped the ball somewhere in that regard. Now, I see him try to take back certain things and say that, he was making light of certain stuff and how certain things were twisted and taken out of context. He's familiar with that. T.I.'s an articulate dude, too. So if you're going to talk about really clocking your daughter's process of virginity to that extent, it's always going to get backlash. There's just so many, you kind of set yourself up for that one for even speaking on it in the first place. If you were going to really speak on it, it should have been something she was cool with. That way, if she backed you, then people would have backed her.
Got you. Okay, I mean, that's fair. He doesn't get a pass from me. I think he was out of line.
Yeah.
I think he took it entirely too far. And now that it's gotten to a place of, his daughter being publicly shamed, and now this whole PR stunt, I'm not buying it. T.I., you're going to have to hold this L.
Well, their family dynamic is interesting in regards to how they kind of hustle, like the family hustle, literally, right? I think they've been hustling storylines for a minute.
So this now closes out their season. So this probably will open up next season's show.
So it's hard. I remember they was going to get divorced, and this is the final season, and next thing you know, it's a.
So we're gonna close out on this one. Do you think that this is a story well sold and not well told?
I actually think it's both. Because I think it brings up the conversation when you talk about fatherhood and being involved in the process of your daughter's virginity or her managing it and her being sexually liberal compared to, your sons. I think some of his sons are sexually active.
Yeah.
That might be younger than her.
Yeah.
So, again, we talk about behavior and teaching from behavior. You're already teaching through your behavior as far as what's valid in that when your daughter can't do something, but her little brother can.
Got it.
So, again, it's just going to the root of some of the ways that we look at things, communicate things, process things, and just tweaking it to where it's a more evolved thought process that's beneficial to everybody involved.
Okay. Well, I think we are almost at our time. If not
our time. I need another hour, man.
Well, we going to get there one day. But right now, we in that hour slot. So before we wrap, tell the people where to find you again.
I'm Cool Hunter on everything, Facebook, IG. I'm on Twitter too, but I don't really be doing too much on Twitter. But you can follow me on there. Cool Hunter everything. Like I said, I'm really revamping a lot of content. We got a big music push with some good stuff coming out soon, so look for that. Okay. I actually forgot to say I'm gonna be putting out music myself too, but I'm not rapping though. I'm not rapping or doing anything. So I got some surprises there. I'm not going to elaborate on. That's what I'm actually excited for people to kind of see is the direction where a lot of this music that I've been working on and been a part of over the past 2 years, when it comes out, I want people to kind of, I really want to see the feedback from people here and, far and wide, because it's not going to be a local push with it. You know what I'm saying? So look out for that at the top of 2020. Look out for my new show. I'm playing around with some names and some things, but I'm looking at maybe like a spring release. Just fine tuning some things there. So, like I said, I really want my book to be done before I make certain moves in 2020. So I want to take this winter time while it's cold and nasty outside to really just stay in the house, man, and put work in, man.
Okay, well, that's that. Thanks for coming on.
Always a pleasure, man.
As you all know, I'm Carmen of the Two Dons, and that's our time.
Always a pleasure. Peace.